Hello, everyone, and welcome to Craving Cinema. And today we have a monthly wrap up. Now, I am filming this on the 29th because Sundance Film Festival is starting their online viewings. And every year for my birthday, I buy myself some tickets. So I am very excited for that. But just in general, I think next week's going to be a little crazy, so I might as well cut it off here. And yeah, so let's get started with Wendy and Lucy. This is from 2008, and this is, of course, part of the 5x5 challenge. I I adored this film, but it's devastating. I know I've heard Kelly Reichardt say that a lot of her films are about people who don't have a safety net, and I would say this is definitely one of those films. We're following Wendy, who is the human, and Lucy, the dog, and they are trying to make their way to Alaska. This is set during 2008. So this is at a time where in America it was just financially rough for everyone, and they are trying to make their way to Alaska specifically because Alaska has job opportunities. So yeah, they unfortunately their car breaks down in Oregon, and that's where the movie begins. So if you have a dog, this is going to be a devastating movie. I was definitely crying at the end of this, but I loved it. Like watching Lucy just try to navigate all of the struggles, especially with just a very limited budget that she is at all times having to give up in order to make her next move. But yeah, a really solid little film. Start of the year, I gave this 4 stars, and you should absolutely check it out. I watched it on Mubi. Next up is Queer. I don't know if you can read any of this. I have like a little set up of books over here, and that is my TBR. So to be read, and just books that I'm currently interested in. I did buy the book Queer. I watched this at a very small independent cinema, and even though I did not have the best viewing, I will always recommend checking out independent cinemas. But the reality for this one is that we had some technical difficulties, and I honestly didn't even get to see the last like 5 minutes of this film. Yeah, I haven't rated this one, partly because of that, because I feel like I need to watch it again without all the technical difficulties. And also, I know a lot of people have mentioned that if you are not familiar with William S. Burroughs, who is the writer of the book that this is based off of, and in general, like if you haven't read the book, like all of the above, you're not gonna have a full picture of what's really happening here. And don't get me wrong, in saying that, I watched that without any of this, and I would say that I still very much understood for the most part what was happening. I just think there was like little moments that if I had a better knowledge of it, I would have maybe meant more to me. This is split into 3 parts, and for me personally, parts 1 and 3 were really great and I enjoyed them. Part 2 in the middle just dragged real hard for me, and I understand that it had quite a bit to do with William S. Burroughs' addictions and the health struggles that he had to deal with, but I just personally didn't find that section very compelling. It slowed down the movie. I think that that third act is visually stunning, and also like there's moments of surrealism in the film which I was personally not expecting, but I think works really well. They're well done. And it really definitely adds to that third act that is all about them chasing after ayahuasca. So, you know anything about that, you know it's some real crazy trips with that. So the surrealism played really well into that whole section. But yeah, I still did enjoy it. I just want to, as I said, do some readings and feel like I need to watch that one again. And on my birthday, we watched Rattlers, which is this like TV horror movie from 1976. My boyfriend and I literally just jumped on Tubi and flew through the horror section, and Rattlers just sounded like a really good time. And it kind of was. So, it has to do with a scientist investigating a series of fatal rattlesnake attacks in a small town. I don't want to read you the full thing because that actually gives away the whole movie. This is not like monster snakes or anything like that. It's literally just your average day snakes. And really what it is that they've become just like overly vicious, and they're traveling in packs. And so like this is very much a realistic movie. They're using like real snakes in this movie. And I think that's part of how this ends up like flopping around the end, because the first half is so strong. These snake attacks are awesome. These snakes are taking out whole families. Like, it's amazing. But that second half gets plot heavy on like, how did we get the snakes? Why are they acting this way? And that's fine, but then we don't get as much snakes at in that second part. And I personally do feel that maybe it probably costs a lot to, rent, borrow, however that works, borrow snakes for the movie. And I don't know what happened there, but it just feels like the snakes are not really as present in that second half, and it's just the humans being humans, and that's fine, but it slows down the movie big time. We still get a bit of an explosive ending, but I really, for a movie called Rattlers, I needed more snakes. But yeah, if you still want to check this one out, as I mentioned, it's on Tubi. I was born on January 7th, and the person who also shares that birthday is Nicolas Cage. So I've made it a kind of tradition to watch Nicolas Cage films in January. I watched Mandy, and I don't think I've watched Mandy since it came out, which truly, at this point, is a crime, because this time around I gave it 4 stars. And I just forgot how visually stunning this movie really is. The usage of color is fantastic. If you've ever watched a Dario Argento film, I feel like Cosmatos really uses color very similar to that. It's amazing. And just in general, this is very much like a fantastical film, and it is just building up in the fantasticalness. I don't know if that's a word. But I feel like there's like touches of it in the beginning, and then we're just slowly getting more and more until it just ramps up to this big ending that just doesn't feel real. And I really enjoyed that. For anyone who doesn't know what this is about, Red and Mandy lead a loving and peaceful existence, but when their pine-scented haven is savagely destroyed, Red is catapulted into a phantasmagoric journey. This is a revenge film, and easily that's just one of my favorite subgenres is revenge. And I think the first half of this is really strong, though I am going to say that the second half that is a revenge half, I wish we went harder with the violence. We do, don't get me wrong, have like a good amount of gore throughout this section, and actually really throughout all of it there's a good amount of gore happening. I kind of wish that Nicolas Cage's character had more challenges. I wish the fights went harder. What we get is really good. It just doesn't hit quite as hard as I would like it to, and we don't really get like a boss battle in the end. It really is a quick ending, but I still really enjoyed this, like way more than I think I did the first time. I don't think I appreciated as much as I did that first time I saw it. And let me just say, supposedly Cosmatos is making another film, which I really hope so, because I would love to see more from him. I've also seen, my God, what is it called? Like Over the Black Rainbow, something like that. Also really enjoyed that one. But for anyone curious, Mandy is on Shudder. It's also available on VOD if you don't have Shudder. And yeah, you should absolutely check that one out. I just feel like it's not talked about as much. The Last Showgirl. Okay. This movie has definitely been talked about. There was a moment where we thought this was going to be possibly a little bit more involved in the Oscar nominations, which it was not. Okay, so like Last Showgirl is Pamela Anderson, and she's playing a showgirl. And she's been doing the same show in Las Vegas her entire life. And she's fully dedicated to it. And unfortunately for her, they announced that the show is going to be canceled. And so she kind of starts to have a bit of I guess we'll say midlife crisis, because she's, as I mentioned, devoted her whole life to it and doesn't know where to go from here. And when I say she's devoted her whole life to it, like, she's frankly burned a lot of bridges, like, working this job. And so everything seems to fall apart, and she's having to deal with everybody coming to her and being like, well, was it all worth in the end, type of stuff. I think a bit of everything could have been done better here. I really do think that the writing could have been a lot stronger. There's like moments with Pamela Anderson and her daughter, played by Billie Lourd. That argument should have been deeper. The writing could have been better. Cinematography, oh my god, drove me insane. I really thought when this movie started that I had to go call somebody and tell them, hey, there's something wrong. Like the film is like, it's blurry as hell. Like, no, that's just how they made it. Is blurry as hell. The camera needs to pull the hell out, because we are just like in people's faces the whole time. Jamie Lee Curtis's character. Okay, I just want to say I actually really enjoyed her character. I thought she was great, but there isn't enough of her character in it. We're just getting these random little like moments with her that I felt like this should have been like the best friend duo that we saw more of. The performance is good. I don't know why she was trying to get that nomination. She's not in this enough. But yeah, I just want to say that everybody acting wise is doing great in this. They're all there doing their best. They really are. I just think the creation of the film could have been handled better. Because I think there's a lot there, but I don't know. All right, next up, we've got A Complete Unknown. So this surprisingly did really well with the Oscar nominations, which I didn't see coming. I give this movie 3.5 stars. Like, part of my hang up with this movie is that I am not a huge Bob Dylan fan. I really do. I enjoy his music, but I'm not like, all in with him. So I don't know that much about him, the artist around him, and just like that time in folk music, which I feel like is really the main focus of the film. I just don't know a whole lot about that. And because of my lack of knowledge there, I just felt like I was watching this just as an average person, and the movie is fine. I think everybody, performance-wise, does a great job. I'm truly surprised that this got as much, as many nominations as it did, and we'll see how well it actually does. But yeah, it's a fine movie. I think for a lot of people, this is still in theaters. I don't know streaming-wise where this is going to be. I'm sure this is going to be on VOD pretty soon. But yeah, if you're doing the Oscars, if you're trying to catch up with the Oscars, that's one to watch. Up next, we have Mads. Okay, so Mads is a French horror film. I gave this one 3.5 stars. This is currently on Shudder. I highly recommend you go into this one blind. So let me read you part of the synopsis. I don't want to, like I said, say too much. So a teenager stops off to his dealer to test a new drug before heading off for a night of partying. And the night takes a surreal turn. So that's all you really need to know. I did have a really good time with this movie. The acting was well done, very physical performances, which I always enjoy. This is the type of movie where we're jumping from different character views, which normally doesn't work for me, but because of what this movie is, I thought it was really smart to do it in that fashion, and it just works. And this is also, I want to say, a one-take film. And I think that also works for what it is. I know I'm being very vague, but if you're into French cinema, this does get real gory. If you're into some freaky French cinema, get in there. Get on Shudder and give this a shot. Up next, this is another Oscars film. So I rewatched Conclave. I watched this movie with my mom last year. She's pretty religious, so I think she very much enjoyed it for that reason, and it was also helpful for me to have someone that knew religion well enough to basically give me hints every once in a while of like how things are going, like how things work within that world. But yeah, so if you haven't heard about this one is based off a novel, so that's why it's up for the adapted. This is a fictional story about the death of the Pope, and essentially the cardinals that come together to form the conclave that they are choosing a new pope from. I know a lot of people are joking about like how gossipy and scandalous and just melodramatic this movie is, and that is exactly why I enjoyed it. This was just such a good time at the movies. Like I love that like in the theater, like it was a good theater experience. Let me just say that too. Because I think everyone there was definitely much older than me and probably knows a decent amount about, the procedures of picking a new pope and all that. And so the amount of like scandals that were just happening, people being like gasping here and there of like all the stuff going on and like, oh my god, so and so is doing this or doing that. It was just such a good time. I think Conclave is a great little, I guess, religious thriller. I personally gave it 4 stars. I think it's a movie I could easily watch again and have a good time with. I know a lot of people are saying that the ending is, I guess we'll say, kind of silly compared to everything else happening. I agree, but still overall, really enjoyed this film, and I still a little bit mad that Berger didn't get nominated for directing. I listen. Complete Unknown is a fine movie, but I had a way better time with Conclave, and that's just me. So next up on January 16th, as you all know, David Lynch passed, and because of that, I really just for like 2 days did a small little run through of his work. So up next we've got Holland Drive. This I had been putting off because I had originally intended for this to be the like last Lynch movie I saw, just because I feel like everyone says that this is his masterpiece or something like that. Which, having seen it now, I think it's such a good movie. It is. I agree that it's his most accessible movie. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, it's all obvious and like easy to solve or whatever, but I think it's just. I think even though it has all the Lynchian things going on, all these like random funny moments, these just wacky characters, and all this like melodrama and all that, like it's still such an excellent film, and I don't know, I had a really good time with it. I think so far out of the films it's one of my favorites. I don't think anything's ever gonna top Fire Walk with Me. But Mulholland Drive is definitely up there, but I still have a lot to watch. I haven't watched Eraserhead yet, so we'll see. That might take the crown at some point. From there, I watched Six Men Getting Sick, The Grandmother, and The Alphabet. And I still have quite a few of his short films to get through as well. I Okay, so at the time we didn't know yet what the Oscar nominations were going to be. So I watched September 5, and this is honestly a really nice little thriller. I don't know if I want to say thriller actually. Like I'm going to actually say suspense. Um and okay, I'm just going to say right now I am not very knowledgeable about history. So I knew about this event. I remember hearing about it in, one of my college history classes. For the life of me, could not remember how this went down, which benefited me because I was truly on edge the entire movie. Had no idea how it was going to end, which again, I think just made it more enjoyable as a whole for me. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was a good time. September 5 is still in theaters, at least around me, and I'm sure it'll be available for VOD soon enough. And yeah. All right, next up we've got Meek's Cutoff. Once again, this is for the 5x5 challenge. Another really good Kelly Reichardt film. Really enjoy survival movies, and this, I would say, when I say survival, it's not necessarily like you're in like immediate peril and you're like, you know, having to fight for your life every 5 seconds. At the same time, like, this kind of is that. Okay, so we're following three families that are making their way through the Oregon High Desert. This is set in 1854, and essentially three families who meet this man who says he knows a shortcut. And along the way, they are starting to realize that maybe he actually doesn't know where he's going. And I can't even begin to express like how much of a like quiet nightmare this is. Obviously we are living in modern times. I couldn't possibly imagine traveling the way this family is traveling. They're just blindly following this man. And the whole time we're mainly focused on the wives. We do, see a bit of everybody interacting, but the wives are the ones that we are focused on, and they are constantly having their own little meetings and asking like, hey, what did your husband say, and what did this one say, and what are they thinking about, and how long until we get to this or that, and just having to constantly make decisions that affect them as a whole, because it's not just one family, it's three, and any decision they make affects all of them. And I know some people have said like nothing happens in this film, and in a way, yes, like nothing happens, but also everything happens. It is a quiet film, but I think it is so well done. And I personally do like the ending. I know some people have some beef with it, but I hate to be a cliche, but it's not about destination, it's the journey, and that's very much what this movie is about. So yeah, I gave this one 4 stars, really enjoyed it. It's currently on Mubi. You can also get this on VOD. And yeah, another high score for Kelly Reichardt. I kind of think that she might end up becoming one of my favorite directors, which is really exciting. I'm really happy I put her on this challenge. Okay, next up, we got a wacky one. Hundreds of Beavers. I have no doubt that everyone has heard about this movie. This is listed as 2022. I don't know what the difficulties were on releasing this, but this is just a hysterical movie. Like, slapstick humor. This very much feels like a live action Looney Tunes. Like, I feel like I should have been eating a bowl of cereal watching this. And it is just like skit after skit of all these like wacky little setups, and you have to pay attention because these wacky setups like build off each other, and something that happened like an hour ago is just going to come right back out of nowhere. I think my one complaint about this film though is that it it runs a little long. It's an hour and 48 minutes. I think this could have been a really sharp an hour 30. I think in that third sequence of it, it starts to feel a little bit long. But I still had a really good time with this film. And let me just say now, when you throw one on and you start to think, okay, it's over, like, no, it's still going. So just let it go, because it's going to take you on one hell of a ride. But yeah, a really fun time. I still can't figure out how half the shit was done. They had a low budget and they really used it to its full potential. So definitely check that one out. You can see it on Tubi and also Amazon Prime if you have that. Okay. Up next, we got Divorce Italian Style. This is from 1961. As the title states, this is an Italian comedy. And how do I explain this one? So we are following Fefe. Is played by Marcello Mastroianni. Oh, I never feel like I'm saying his last name right, so I apologize for that. So we're following Fefe, and he is married to a woman that he just absolutely hates. He is constantly fantasizing about murdering her in all of these like really silly ways, might I say. And it's such a wacky little premise. Fefe, again, like I mentioned, played by Marcello Mastroianni, and I think he's so funny in this because he's very much, this movie is very much about the Italian machismo, we're gonna say. And Fefe thinks he's this like man's man. And the whole time he's trying to find a loophole to getting rid of his wife. And that's really where the comedy comes in. And I think he does such a great job of being so freaking aloof. Like all the time, like shit is hitting the fan, and he's just acting like, yeah, this is all part of my plan. Everything's gonna work out in the end, and this is all going so perfectly. Reality, everything's going to hell, and he just doesn't seem to realize like how bad he makes everything and how bad he's handling it all. It's really a hysterical one. This one's on Criterion right now. You can also, if you have an HBO Max account, you can watch it on that as well. I think it's a really fun time, and I just don't hear anyone talk about this one. I literally just threw it on because I love me some Marcello. All right, so earlier I mentioned that I had watched Mandy, and okay, when you're watching Mandy, there's like a moment where Red and Mandy sit down to have dinner one night, and they're watching this like cheesy sci-fi movie. And I always look up to see if movies within movies are real. And this one is it. So I had to watch it. So the movie is called Night Beast from 1982. And this is just a trashy, like, alien invader sci-fi movie. It's so entertaining. So I'm a little confused about the production of this because I know in the beginning of the film it happened to say like a Troma production. And for all of those who are familiar with Troma, like if you know, you know. So obviously, yes, there is unnecessary nudity, there is unnecessarily violence against women. Like I'm gonna say that it's in there. The awkward as hell sex scene. Oh my god. But if you can get past those things, this is actually a really entertaining film. As I mentioned, this is just an alien that crash lands on Earth and just immediately goes on a killing spree. This movie takes zero time to get started. We're just like, from the second this thing touched down, it's going off and killing people. We see 4 people die in the first like 10 minutes. It's amazing. And honestly, the effects in this movie are actually really good sometimes. Some of it is not so well done, and that's also kind of part of the fun of it. Some of the effects are poorly done, and that's just hysterical. But then when they're well done, it's so great. But I definitely watched it on a movie. I think it says on here Roku as well. But yeah, I would say if you were into some trashy horror, give it a try. I thought it was a surprisingly fun time. But that's just me. Oh, okay. And then, so if, for all those who have used Tubi before, you know that if you play a movie, it will like set up a playlist of movies that are similar to what you've just watched. And if you let it, it will just automatically play another movie. Night Beast is directed by Don Dohler, I think it's pronounced. Dollar? I don't know, Don Dohler, I guess, is how I'm going to say this. And so they immediately played his other film, The Galaxy Invader. Similar premise, space invader comes down to Earth and immediately starts wreaking havoc, we're going to say. I did not enjoy this film as much. I'm not going to lie to you. Somehow the quality went down. Like, the quality was horrendous for this film. I don't know if that's just the way it was transferred or something like that. It just looks like it was a horribly done TV movie. I don't know how the Night Beast, it came out 3 years before this, but the quality on that is way better than the Space Invader. And just plot-wise overall, it's a fine plot, but I think it runs kind of long for what it is. Don't get me wrong, there's some real funny moments in this. It just did not capture me the way the Night Beast captured me. So if anything, throw on Night Beast. I think that was a way better watch. Next up, we've got Presence. Okay, so this is the Steven Soderbergh movie that we've all been waiting to see because this, if I'm correct, this premiered last year's Sundance and was pretty well received. I kept hearing it was going to come out in the fall, and it just kind of never did. And then out of nowhere, here we are getting it in January. But let me tell you, I actually had a pretty good time with this film. I gave it 3.5 stars. Um, I feel like every marketing team that gets a horror movie immediately is like, scariest thing you've seen all year. And that's not what this is. This is not the type of like horror that's gonna like scare you to your core and all that stuff. I think it's a pretty quiet film. We are seeing everything through the lens of a ghost. And the house that the ghost is living in suddenly gets a new family. And said family is very much like breaking apart, we'll say. And so you're watching the ghost kind of see bits and parts of each different type of relationship happening like in this family. So you're seeing all these little interactions, and I like that there's quite a bit happening with the family. You're not getting the usual like boring little things with the family. Like every part of this family has a different conflict that it's working through, and you have this ghost that's like just witnessing all these little things, and kind of not interacting with the family, but like stepping in every once in a while when it has like an emotional outburst, we'll say. This is currently in theaters, so if you want to check this out, I highly recommend it. I have no doubt that within a month it's going to be on VOD, but I thought it was a good time. So I would say check that one out. The last thing I saw this month is Wild at Heart, and this is another David Lynch film. I would say the strongest parts of this film are Nicolas Cage and Laura Dern and the relationship they have as Lola and Sailor. I'm kind of sad that like David Lynch never worked with Cage again, as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I don't think they do any other movies together. Nicolas Cage's character is so amazing in this. He's just playing this dude that's obsessed with Elvis and is basically talking like Elvis the whole time, and he even sings a few times in the movie, which I adored. Laura Dern is looking fine as hell in this movie. Oh my god, the two of them are just the most like amazing couple. I love the quiet moments we get with them when they're just talking. I feel like there's something there that is so really well illustrated that I can never put my like I never know how to explain it. I feel like when you're in a relationship, you and this person build their own little weird little world. And I feel like it is kind of illustrated here in this movie, just like that uniqueness of a relationship and the little bubble you build around yourselves, and how like nobody will understand that connection the way you guys like understand it. And yeah, I love this couple. The adventure they get on was a little weird. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think this is kind of a messy movie at times. But I feel like the anchor of that relationship is so strong that you, regardless of what insane thing like Lynch is throwing at you, this keeps you, like in place. And I think if you have a chance to check it out, you should absolutely do it. I had such a blast with that movie. And the ending, like, oh my god. Dude, I actually really enjoyed Nicolas Cage's singing. I know some people have been like, he's okay. Like, I loved it. And that ending song was just the cherry on top of that whole movie. Absolutely adored it. So like I said, if you got a chance, check that out. And yeah, that's everything I've watched this month. Kind of a weird month for me watch-wise. And I'm sure that February's going to be just as messy because we've got the Oscar nominations that I'm trying to catch up with. So there's going to be a weird mixture of things. There's going to be that. As I mentioned, I've got Sundance coming up tomorrow. Oh my god, I can't believe that's already starting. I've got that. There's a bunch of new releases coming out. There's just a lot happening in February. So I have no doubt my next wrap-up will be just as messy. So just hang in there with me, because after that, March should be pretty chill and onwards. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye.